To step into a WWE ring is to become a living, breathing superhero. They are titans carved from granite, with physiques that defy what we think is humanly possible. But what happens when the roar of the crowd fades, the lights go down, and the superhero has to go back to being human? For some of wrestling's biggest stars, the battle for their health and their body truly began after they left the spotlight. Today, we're looking at the WWE stars who completely lost their iconic physiques after their time in the company. These stories are about more than just weight gain or muscle loss. They are shocking, sometimes tragic, and often inspiring tales of personal demons, career-ending injuries, and the simple, unavoidable march of time. The transformations you're about to see are some of the most drastic in wrestling history. So, which wrestler's physical change shocked you the most over the years? Drop their name in the comments below and stick around to see if they made our list. Number 10. Yokozuna. Jumping right into it, with one of the most iconic and tragic figures in WWE history, the colossal Yokozuna. When this guy debuted in the early 90s, the world had never seen anything like him. Managed by the sneaky Mr. Fuji, Yokozuna was a legit force of nature. He was a super heavyweight, tipping the scales at over 500 pounds, but he moved with the grace and speed of a much smaller man. His size was his biggest weapon, but his shocking agility is what made him special. His finisher, the Banzai Drop, was the most feared move in the company. The sight of a man that big climbing to the second rope is burned into the memory of every fan from that era. He was a two-time champ, a Royal Rumble winner, and a main event draw against guys like Bret Hart and The Undertaker. But behind the scenes, Yokozuna's greatest asset was also his greatest enemy. His weight was a constant battle. The company even sent him and Vader to a weight loss center, but the attempt was a famous failure, with stories of them sneaking out for fast food and actually gaining weight. The struggles kept going, and in 1996, WWE had to write him off TV with a storyline involving a forklift because a regular stretcher couldn't hold him. The hope was he'd use the time off to get his health in check. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. After leaving WWE for good, Yokozuna's weight problems spiraled. He couldn't pass the physicals required by state athletic commissions, and reports from those close to him suggested his weight climbed to staggering estimates of 700 to 800 pounds. Photos from his time on the Indies in the late 90s show a man whose mobility was almost gone. It was heartbreaking to see. The once dominant champion could now barely move around the ring. This continued weight gain had devastating effects, and in October of 2000, Rodney Anoa'i, the man behind the gimmick, passed away from pulmonary edema. He was only 34. His story is the ultimate cautionary tale in wrestling, a stark reminder of how the very thing that makes you a star can lead to a tragic downfall. Number 9. Scott Hall. Next up, we've got the bad guy, Scott Hall. Whether you knew him as the toothpick-flicking Razor Ramon in WWE or a founding member of the revolutionary NWO in WCW, Scott Hall just oozed machismo. He had the look, the swagger, and the in-ring talent that made him a megastar. In his prime, Hall was built. Standing at 6'7", he wasn't just tall. He had an imposing and well-defined physique that made his character totally believable. However, after his heyday in the late 90s, Scott Hall's life and career began a well-documented and heartbreaking downward spiral. His struggles with substance abuse and serious health problems took a devastating toll on his body. The once mighty physique that defined him began to deteriorate. Photos from the 2000s and early 2010s showed a man who was almost unrecognizable. He had drastic weight swings, sometimes appearing bloated and out of shape, and other times looking frighteningly frail. The muscle was gone, and the physical changes were a public reflection of his inner turmoil. Hall had long battled his personal demons, which led to a lot of legal trouble and health scares. For years, it looked like his story was headed for a tragic ending. But then, in 2013, his close friend Diamond Dallas Page stepped in. DDP took Hall into his home and put him on his DDP yoga program, a journey famously shown in the documentary The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. While he never got back to the chiseled shape of Razor Ramon, Hall made a remarkable recovery. He got sober and regained a healthy weight, allowing him to have a final redemptive chapter in his life that included 2 WWE Hall of Fame inductions. Though he tragically passed away in 2022, his final years were a testament to his fighting spirit, as he managed to reclaim his health and legacy from the brink. Number 8. Jake the Snake Roberts. Following a similar, tragic yet ultimately inspiring path is the master of ring psychology, Jake the Snake Roberts. In the 80s and early 90s, Jake was a different breed of superstar. He wasn't the most jacked guy on the roster, but his primary assets were his mind and his menacing presence. He had a lean, wiry, and deceptive strength, the physique of a predator. But Jake's dark on-screen persona was fueled by very real off-screen demons. Much like Scott Hall, Roberts' time after WWE led to a long and harrowing battle with addiction, which was brutally showcased in the 1999 documentary Beyond the Mat. As his addictions took over, his health and physique fell apart. The lean, dangerous athlete disappeared. His weight ballooned, and at his heaviest, he reportedly tipped the scales at over 300 pounds. Photos from this time are shocking. He looked bloated, puffy, and decades older than he was. The reasons for his decline were rooted in a traumatic childhood and the punishing wrestling lifestyle. For years, he was a cautionary tale, but his story didn't end there. In a parallel journey to Scott Hall, Jake found salvation through Diamond Dallas Page. He moved in with DDP and started DDP Yoga, a journey also documented in The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. Through immense hard work, he shed the weight, found sobriety, and transformed himself back into a healthy man who looked happy and alive. Today, working in AEW, he's a respected elder statesman of the business, a survivor who clawed his way back from the abyss. Number 7. Scott Steiner. Our next superstar is a man who built his entire persona around his physique, a man who called himself the genetic freak. Scott Steiner's transformation is one of the most visually striking in wrestling history. As part of the Steiner brothers, Scott was an athletic marvel and a former NCAA Division III All-American wrestler. But in 1998, he underwent one of the most dramatic reinventions ever seen. He turned on his brother, joined the NWO, bleached his hair, and packed on an astonishing amount of muscle. Big Papa Pump was born. No joke, his physique became almost cartoonish. His biceps peaked like mountains, and his entire gimmick revolved around his 26-inch pythons and genetic superiority. This look made him a main event star, but after leaving WWE in 2004, and as the years went on, the genetic freak began to look more and more human. The inevitable effects of aging and the difficulty of maintaining such an extreme level of muscle started to show. While Steiner has stayed in better shape than the average guy his age, the difference between Big Papa Pump in his prime and Scott Steiner today is night and day. Much of that iconic muscle mass has diminished. The reasons are pretty straightforward. First, maintaining that kind of size is incredibly demanding and likely not sustainable long-term. Age is the biggest factor. As men get older, it's significantly harder to maintain muscle. Unlike others on this list, Steiner's transformation isn't a story of tragedy. It's a more relatable, though visually jarring story about the realities of time. He pushed the human body to its limits to create a character, and the decline of that physique is simply a return to a more normal state. Number 6. Gabby Tuft. This next story is one of the most profound transformations in wrestling history. Fans from the early 2000s will remember the superstar known as Tyler Rex, a 6'2", 280-pound powerhouse with signature dreadlocks who looked like he was carved out of stone. His physique was his calling card, a hyper-masculine, muscle-bound wrecking machine. Rex left WWE in 2012, not due to injury, but to spend more time with his wife and young daughter. At first, he stayed in the fitness world, even launching a company with other wrestlers, but the biggest change was yet to come. In February 2021, the world was reintroduced to Gabby Tuft, as she publicly came out as a transgender woman. The physique that defined Tyler Rex was gone, but this was a transformation driven not by loss, but by the pursuit of her true self. She has been open about the immense challenge of reshaping the body she had spent years building, a process that required a complete shift in training and nutrition to shed the muscle that defined her past life. Gabby's story is a powerful example of losing a physique to find oneself, a complete metamorphosis of body and soul that is truly one of a kind. We're at the halfway point, and from a tragic cautionary tale to the inevitable effects of aging, the reasons for these changes are powerful and complex. If you're finding this deep dive into the lives of these legends interesting, show some support and hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Now, let's get back to it, because the next transformations are just as unbelievable. Number 5. The Great Khali. From a genetic freak to a literal giant, let's talk about the Great Khali. When Dalip Singh Rana debuted in 2006, he was an absolute spectacle. Standing over 7 feet tall, he dwarfed everyone, including giants like Kane and the Undertaker. His sheer size was his gimmick. He was presented as an unstoppable monster and even became a world heavyweight champion based on his presence alone. However, as his WWE career progressed, particularly during his later run as the Punjabi Playboy, a noticeable change occurred. While still a giant, his body began to look softer and less toned. After his departure from WWE in 2014, this trend continued for a bit. But on the flip side, something surprising happened. Khali went in the opposite direction. He started a remarkable body transformation journey, posting photos and videos showing him looking more muscular and defined than he ever did during his wrestling career. He shed excess fat and packed on quality muscle, getting into what many have argued is the best shape of his life after leaving. So, why is he on this list? Because the transformation from his later WWE days is still shocking, just in a positive way. Once he left the grueling road schedule behind, he had the time to focus on his health with a strict diet and workout regimen. In a way, Khali did lose the physique he had when he left WWE, but he replaced it with a much better one, proving that leaving the spotlight can be an opportunity to rebuild. Number 4. Batista. Next, we have a superstar who dominated the ruthless aggression era, the animal Batista. Dave Bautista was a physical specimen. During his main event run, he was the definition of a powerhouse, huge, shredded, and vascular, with a body that looked like it was chiseled from stone. His physique was a central part of his animal character. After stepping away from WWE to pursue a career in Hollywood, fans began to notice a significant change. The massive, heavily muscled frame began to shrink. He lost a considerable amount of muscle mass, and his overall look became much leaner. While he remained in fantastic shape, the difference between the 290-pound animal and the actor Dave Bautista was dramatic. However, unlike many others, Batista's transformation was entirely intentional. He's been open that the super heavyweight, bodybuilder look can be limiting for an actor. By leaning out, Batista opened himself up to a wider range of roles. Another key factor was his long-term health. Carrying that much muscle is incredibly taxing on the body. His transformation isn't a cautionary tale. It's a success story of a man intelligently evolving his body to meet the demands of a new career and a healthier future. Number 3. Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is a master of reinvention, not just of his character but also of his physique. In his early days in WCW and WWE, he was the Lionheart, a lean, athletic cruiserweight. He kept a similar rock star physique for years. However, as his career progressed into his New Japan and AEW runs, fans noticed a significant change. Jericho intentionally put on weight and mass for his Painmaker gimmick in Japan, wanting to appear as a more physically imposing brawler. This bulkier physique carried over into early AEW, where he became noticeably heavier, and the change led to some criticism from fans. It was a stark contrast to the lean Y2J they remembered. The weight gain was initially a deliberate choice, but it later became a health issue. In late 2021, Jericho suffered a pulmonary embolism, a serious medical scare that forced him to confront his health. Doctors told him he needed to lose weight. This crisis became the catalyst for his most recent and impressive transformation. He lost over 30 pounds, returning with a physique that was leaner and more defined than it had been in years. Jericho's journey is a cycle of deliberate change for his character, followed by a necessary change for his health, showcasing his remarkable ability to adapt. Number 2. Dustin Rhodes. For our next entry, we have a man whose career has seen incredible highs and devastating lows, with his physique often reflecting his personal journey. Dustin Rhodes. Whether as the Natural in WCW or the bizarre Goldust in WWE, Rhodes always had a tall, athletic build that allowed him to be a top-tier performer for decades. His look was distinct and a key part of his longevity. However, throughout his career, particularly during his periods away from WWE, Rhodes's life spiraled into a serious battle with addiction. He has openly discussed how his struggles with pills and alcohol took over, leading him to lose everything. This dark period had a dramatic effect on his body. He gained a significant amount of weight, and the once elite athlete looked out of shape and unhealthy, a physical manifestation of his internal turmoil. At his lowest point, he was consuming large amounts of pills and alcohol daily. The reasons for his decline were rooted in the pressures of the industry and personal demons. After hitting rock bottom in 2008, a late-night call to his father, Dusty Rhodes, started him on the path to recovery with help from WWE's wellness program. His story is one of incredible redemption. In recent years, especially since joining AEW, Rhodes has gotten into what many call the best shape of his life. Now in his 50s, he looks leaner and more defined than he did decades ago, proving that it's never too late to reclaim your health and rewrite your ending. Number 1. Randy Orton. Our final entry is one of the most recent and shocking examples, involving one of WWE's most enduring stars, Randy Orton. For over 2 decades, the Viper has been known for his distinct physique. He was never the bulkiest guy, but he was always lean, chiseled, and defined, a model of consistency. In May 2022, Orton was sidelined with a serious back injury that required spinal fusion surgery, putting his career in jeopardy. This led to an 18-month hiatus, and during this time, unable to train, Orton underwent a drastic physical transformation. He later spoke openly about how his weight ballooned to what he said was over 300 pounds. For fans used to seeing the perpetually shredded Orton, the thought of him carrying 50 to 60 extra pounds was almost unbelievable. The reason was simple. With his back fused, he couldn't do any real training for a long time. He admitted his diet relaxed, and he indulged his sweet tooth. It's a classic case of an elite athlete's routine being completely thrown off by a major injury. However, once cleared, Orton worked tirelessly to rebuild his body. He focused on converting the bad weight into functional muscle to protect his spine. When he returned, he looked bigger and more muscular than before, now billed at a solid 275 pounds. His journey is a powerful example of the toll an injury can take and the incredible discipline required to fight back. So there you have it. From Yokozuna's tragic battle with weight to Randy Orton's injury-induced transformation, the stories of these superstars are a fascinating look at life after the final bell. Whether it's the result of personal demons, aging, a career choice, or an injury, the physical changes can be absolutely staggering. They are cautionary tales, stories of redemption, and powerful examples of human resilience. But now, we want to hear from you. Which wrestler's transformation on this list was the most dramatic to you? Was there anyone we missed? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And before you leave, if you found this look into wrestling history interesting, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Thanks for watching.